great pleasure of introducing an American poet, Elizabeth Alexander.
Elizabeth Alexander, renowned American poet, educator, and scholar who served as the inaugural poet for President Barack Obama in 2009. On January 20, 2009, at the presidential inauguration of President Obama, Elizabeth Alexander recited her poem, Praise Song for the Day, which she had composed for the occasion. Dr. Alexander is only the fourth poet to read at an American presidential inauguration, and although fellow poets favorably received her chosen poem, critics found it boring, lacking depth, and proof that poets shouldn't be invited to speak at this type of platform. In the following interview with Dr. Darrell Cooper, host of the PBS series Flow, Dr. Alexander tells us about some of her accomplishments.
Elizabeth, thank you so much again for coming on Flow today. How are you?
I am well. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
So am I. So am I. I've been doing so much research preparing for this interview. I feel like I already know you. But for those who may not be as familiar with you and your work as I am, could you just share a little bit about yourself?
Well, right now, today, I am president of the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation, the Mellon Foundation. And it is a wonderful adventure doing this work, which is funding in arts, culture, humanities, libraries, archives, monuments, all through the lens of social justice. And so I start there to say that my whole life has gotten me here. I was born in Harlem, USA. I grew up in Washington, D.C. For most of my professional life, I was and am a scholar in African American studies, English PhD, a literature teacher, and a poet, a playwright, and a memoirist, and a mother of two amazing grown sons.
Oh,
So as you can see, Dr. Alexander has a lot of titles that we could discuss, but let's delve into a poem she wrote called Race. Race is a three-part exploration of racial passing, family, and the social construction of identity, which are some of the topics we've been exploring in this class with Ms. Hickson. Here's a video of Dr. Elizabeth Alexander reading this poem.
Sometimes I think about Great Uncle Paul, who left Tuskegee, Alabama, to become a forester in Oregon, and in so doing became fundamentally white for the rest of his life, except when he traveled without his white wife to visit his siblings, now in New York, now in Harlem, USA, just as pale-skinned, as straight-haired, as blue-eyed as Paul, and black. Paul never told anyone he was white. He just didn't say he was black. And who could imagine an Oregon forester in 1930 as anything other than white? The siblings in Harlem each morning ensured no one confused them for anything other than what they were, black. They were black. Brown-skinned spouses reduced confusion. Many others have told and not told this tale. When Paul came east alone, he was as they were, their brother. The poet invents heroic moments where the pale black ancestor stands up on behalf of the race. The poet imagines Great Uncle Paul in cool, sagey groves, counting rings in redwood trunks, imagines pencil markings in a ledger book, classifications, imagines a sidelong look from an ivory spouse who is learning her husband's caesuras. She can see silent spaces but not what they signify, graphite markings in a forester's code. Many others have told and not told this tale. The one time Great Uncle Paul brought his wife to New York, he asked his siblings not to bring their spouses, and that is where the story ends, ivory siblings who would not see their brother without their telltale spouses. What a strange thing is race, and family stranger still. Here a poem tells a story about race.
I'd like to dissect this poem and discuss some of the key aspects. Racial passing and tension. This poem highlights the absurdity of racial categorizations and the emotional, familial, and cultural costs of choosing to pass. It is Great Uncle Paul who leaves Alabama and chooses to pass as white, becoming fundamentally white while working as a forester in Oregon with his light skin, straight hair, and blue eyes. Contrast of identities. Alexander contrasts Paul's life in the sagey groves with his siblings' lives in Harlem. ultimately focusing on a tense, imagined reunion. When Great Uncle Paul asked his siblings to leave their spouses at home in order to not expose his blackness, they declined the reunion. Identity. This poem emphasizes that while all of the siblings were pale-skinned and blue-eyed, they navigated the world differently based on their chosen identity. Great Uncle Paul chose to lean into and depend on society seeing him as white. Though he never explicitly tells people he is white, he didn't say he was black either. From celebrated author and poet to finalist for the Pulitzer Prize for her poetry, one can see that Dr. Elizabeth Alexander's talents are immeasurable. I hope what I've shared today has inspired you to learn more about this wonderfully brilliant woman.